is the October 19th, 2022 meeting of the Planning Board. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, members of the Planning Board. The first item on the agenda is an extension of conditional preliminary approval for Gyrodyne subdivision. The applicant requests an extension of conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision number 1178, map of Gyrodyne LLC. The subdivision number 1178, map of Gyrodyne LLC, received conditional preliminary approval from the Planning Board on March 30th, 2022. Conditional preliminary approval expired on September 30th, 2022. The applicant submitted a request for an extension on September 14th, 2022. The extension is requested to allow the applicant to continue to work through the Suffolk County Sewer Agency and County Subdivision Approval process, which requires continued revisions and communication to resolve Department of Health Services and County Department of Public Work issues. Additionally, the applicant is working through New York State Department of Transportation issues to obtain required approval for work permits for the same. The Planning Department has no objection to the request and recommends an extension period of 6 months. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request of J. Timothy Shea to extend the conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision number 1178, map of Gyrodyne LLC. Now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board hereby approves a 6-month extension of time to the conditional preliminary approval for the subdivision number 1178, map of Gyrodyne LLC, to expire on March 30th, 2023. And we have the affidavit of posting.
Thank you. Mr. Shea?
Deb, you're going to have to recuse yourself on this.
Yeah, I intend to.
Yes, J. Timothy Shea Jr., Stillman Ballard, 100 North Parkway, New York. Pretty much stole most of my thunder. I will say this, that we have resubmitted plans in with the County Health Department for both. Excuse me. Don't know if this is working right or not. And for the STP construction, those plans are currently under review. We have also resubmitted to New York State DOT. Those plans are also under review. And we are working towards hopefully obtaining the final approvals from the county and the state within the next 6-month period. Just so you understand, it's not just simply getting the maps. We're going to have to record covenants, et cetera. This is a sample covenant package for the county, which we completed last year on a different project, but it will take about 3 or 4 documents to be approved and recorded, and hopefully the county will be open for business and recording in 2023. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard in this matter? Any questions from the board? Okay, in the matter of number 1178, map of Gyrodyne LLC, I move that we close the hearing.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The hearing is closed. And in the matter of extension of conditional preliminary approval, 78 Gyrodyne LLC, I move that we adopt the resolution in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain?
Okay, the motion is adopted, 4 ayes and 1 abstention.
The next item is a final subdivision application for a map of Coffee Estates in Wisconsin. The applicant requests final approval to subdivide a 10.2 acre parcel into 18 single-family lots with 3 cul-de-sacs and a stormwater recharge basin. The subdivision number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, received conditional preliminary approval from the Planning Board on October 6, 2021. The Planning Board also adopted a secret negative declaration for the application. The final subdivision application was filed on June 29, 2022. In addition to the final application submission, the applicant has requested to amend the tree preservation and land clearing plan that was approved by the board at preliminary plat approval. The amendment request is a result of modifications to the drainage and regrading of the subdivision. The request to modify the tree preservation and land clearing plan was sent to the Department of Environment and Waterways and Conservation Board. They recommend approval of the revised tree preservation and land clearing plan, and also recommend the board adopt a revised secret negative declaration, as well as conditions of approval related to land clearing and site preparation work. The final subdivision, number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, is comprised of one tax lot. The property has approximately 1,388 feet of road frontage on Southern Boulevard, approximately 314 feet of road frontage on Town Line Road, and 50 feet of road frontage on Blackwell Road. The subdivision is located in the R10 and R15 zoning districts. Majority of the site is in R10 zoning. North of the subdivision is zoned R15 with single-family homes. West and east is zoned R10 with single-family homes, and south is the town of Islip with single-family homes. There are no existing structures on the property. The subdivision proposes to construct two cul-de-sacs, that's Young Court and Coffee Court, off Southern Boulevard, and extend Blackwell Road into a third cul-de-sac. Each cul-de-sac will provide access to 6 single-family homes. All 3 cul-de-sacs are between 200 feet and 500 feet in length, which is required by the subdivision regulations. Each cul-de-sac will provide a 50-foot right-of-way radius and a 40-foot pavement radius. Although substandard, the planning board has approved cul-de-sac radii with these dimensions in the past, since they provide adequate turnaround space for large vehicles. The southern portion of the subdivision will contain a 1.23-acre stormwater recharge basin. The 3 cul-de-sacs and recharge basin are proposed to be dedicated to the town. The topography of the site ranges from 88 feet to 98 feet above sea level. The subdivision does not contain any steep slopes and is not located in an area of high groundwater or wetlands. All 18 lots conform to the minimum lot area, lot frontage, and road frontage requirements for the R10 and R15 zoning district. On Lot 1, the applicant is requesting a front yard setback variance along Southern Boulevard from 45 feet to 40 feet, and a side yard setback variance from 16 feet to 12 feet. Lot 1 is split zoned R15 and R10. Granting these variances will permit R10 setbacks on the R15 portion of Lot 1 and will allow the home on Lot 1 to match the character of the other homes on Young Court. It is not anticipated that these variances will negatively impact the character of the neighborhood. The planning department has no objection to the variance request. The applicant proposes to dedicate to the town a 15-foot wide strip of land along Southern Boulevard for road widening purposes. Southern Boulevard's pavement will also be widened by approximately 5 to 8 feet. The planning department recommends the applicant coordinate with the highway department before widening the road. Furthermore, the existing utility poles will need to be relocated due to the road widening. Southern Boulevard has been identified as a town road that needs sidewalks due to the level of traffic. The planning department recommends sidewalks be installed on Southern Boulevard within this subdivision. The applicant has proposed installing sidewalks on all 3 cul-de-sacs. The planning department has no objection to installing sidewalks on all 3 cul-de-sacs. However, sidewalks seem necessary only on Blackwell Road, since there are existing sidewalks on Blackwell Road to connect to. Town Line Road is a county right-of-way. The town has no authority to require sidewalks within a county right-of-way. As mentioned above, the subdivision will contain a stormwater recharge basin. Section 248-40F of the subdivision regulations requires a fence and planting screen be established on the perimeter of the stormwater recharge basin. Along the north and east side of the recharge basin, the planting screen shall be placed on the inside of the fence. Along Southern Boulevard and Town Line Road, the fence shall be set 40 feet inside the property line on the recharge basin site, and the area between the property line and the fence shall be landscaped with plant materials native to this area, as directed by the planning department. Section 248-31B of the subdivision regulations requires the subdivision to be clustered because it is adjacent to a county highway. The planning department recommends this subdivision be clustered by placing a 20-foot wide conservation easement along Southern Boulevard, as depicted on the final map dated May 17th, 2022. Chapter 248-24 of the subdivision regulations states that each subdivision is required to show a park area of at least 2 acres per 100 buildings. However, the Court of Appeals has ruled that the town cannot require a reservation of park area unless the planning board determines on a case-by-case basis that a need for parkland exists with respect to the individual subdivision. Based on the community facility studies in the town's comprehensive plan, there is a need for parkland in the neighborhood in which this subdivision is situated. The subdivision share of meeting the need is approximately 0.102 acres. In cases where the planning board determines that a suitable park cannot be located or is otherwise not practical, the subdivider is required to pay a cash equivalent prior to filing the map. Given the location and small size of this subdivision, a dedication for park space would not be practical. Therefore, the payment of an equivalent park fee established at $71,400 is recommended as a condition of final plat approval. Pursuant to Section 239N of General Municipal Law, this subdivision was referred to the Suffolk County Planning Commission. The Suffolk County Planning Commission considered this application to be a matter of local determination. The Highway and Traffic Safety Departments have found the application acceptable. The Engineering Department has found this subdivision acceptable, subject to conditions related to the stormwater recharge basin and the stormwater pollution prevention plan. As mentioned above, the Department of Environment and Waterways recommends the board adopt a revised SECRA negative declaration. The revised SECRA will supersede the one adopted during preliminary plat approval. Additional information: letters assuring availability of the utility service have been received from the Suffolk County Water Authority and PSCG Long Island. 2, the Smithtown Central School District has acknowledged this subdivision. 3, the amount of the inspection fee is $64,587. 4, the amount of the performance bond is estimated at $807,331.50. 5, the amount of the cash deposit is $9,000. 6, the amount of the performance bond to be posted is $798,331.50. The Department of Environment and Waterways offers the following revised resolution for the board's consideration pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act. Whereas the planning board has considered the revised SECRA recommendation from the Department of Environment and Waterways and has indicated that any potential adverse environmental impact associated with said project does not rise to the level of significance which would require a preparation of an environmental impact statement. Now therefore be it first resolved that the planning board hereby issue a revised SECRA negative declaration determination of non-significance in EIS is not necessary in the matter of the application for subdivision approval by Coffee Management LLC for number 1170 map of Coffee Estates for the following reasons. A, the proposal does not involve the destruction or physical modification of any unique or highly valuable environmental or cultural resources as identified in or regulated by the Environmental Conservation Law of the State of New York or Smithtown Town Code. B, the parcel does not appear to contain any high groundwater conditions, poor soil properties, or unmanageable slopes, which would impose severe environmental development constraints upon the subject proposal. C, although the subject parcel is located in hydrogeological zone 1, an adverse impact upon groundwater quality is not anticipated, as this project will be subject to Suffolk County Sanitary Code Article 6, under which the Suffolk County Department of Health Services maintains jurisdiction over final use, lot area, and design and location of sewage disposal and water supply systems. D, the nature of the proposal mitigates against a significant adverse impact upon the environment. E, the proposal appears to be consistent with the planned use of the subject parcel and compatible with neighboring land uses. And F, the revised tree preservation and land clearing plan prepared by Michael James Hillebrand, licensed land surveyor and dated May 17th, 2022, increases the area of the conservation easements and the number of trees to be preserved relative to the original project design, and limits tree removal to the minimum necessary for residential lot development and infrastructure improvements. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request of Coffee Management LLC for the following variances on Lot 1 pursuant to Section 322-30.4 of the Building Zone Ordinance of the Code of the Town of Smithtown for the subdivision number 1170 map of Coffee Estates. Now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board hereby grants variances from the Building Zone Ordinance of the Code of the Town of Smithtown for subdivision number 1170 map of Coffee Estates as follows. And you see the table of the modification of dimensional requirements. A fee of $1,000 is required for these variances. This table shall be shown on the final map to be filed in the office of the Suffolk County Clerk. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request of Coffee Management LLC to subdivide a 10.2 acre parcel into 18 single-family lots with 3 cul-de-sacs and a stormwater recharge basin. Now therefore be first resolved that the final map of number 1170 map of Coffee Estates is hereby approved subject to the following conditions. A, posting of a performance bond in the form and amount specified by separate resolution of the Planning Board and for a term of 2 years. B, posting of a general liability insurance policy to run concurrently with the term of the performance bond and in accordance with other provisions of Section 248 of the Code of the Town of Smithtown subdivision regulations. C, payment of an inspection fee and cash deposit as established by a separate resolution of the Planning Board. D, payment of a park fee of $71,400. E, final approval of the drainage and regrading plans to the satisfaction of the town engineer. F, prior to the start of construction, the contractor shall submit for approval the proposed details of all items relative to the recharge basin, including but not limited to the concrete head wall and perimeter chain link fence. Proposed details shall be reviewed and approved by the engineering department. G, the stormwater pollution prevention plan and supplemental information, both approved by Kramer Consulting Group, revision dated January 29th, 2019, and approved by the engineering department on February 1st, 2019, shall be maintained on site at all times for the duration of construction. H, the postmaster shall approve the name of the proposed streets. I, the tree preservation and land clearing plan shall be modified pursuant to the plan dated May 17th, 2022. J, a 20-foot conservation easement shall be placed along Southern Boulevard as depicted on the final map dated June 13th, 2022. No structures except fences or removal of healthy native vegetation shall be permitted in this easement. K, the building envelope on Lot 2 and 3 shall be modified to reflect both R10 and R15 side yard setbacks. L, there shall be no access to Southern Boulevard for lots 1, 6, 7, 12, 13, and 18. M, sidewalks shall be installed along Southern Boulevard and Blackwell Road. N, the applicant shall contact the Highway Department regarding any road widening or road opening closing permits. O, street trees shall be planted along all roads within the subdivision as directed by the Planning Department. P, a planting screen shall be established on the perimeter of the stormwater recharge basin along the north and east side of the recharge basin. The planting screen shall be placed on the inside of the fence. Along Southern Boulevard and Town Line Road, the fence shall be set at least 40 feet, excuse me, set at least 40 feet inside the property line on the recharge basin site, and the area between the property line and the fence shall be landscaped with plant materials native to this area, as directed by the Planning Department. Q, since this proposed subdivision location is in the vicinity of bats listed as endangered or threatened by the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, the New York State DEC Regional Office must be contacted prior to the commencement of construction activities. R, prior to the commencement of construction activities at the subject parcel, including land clearing or other site preparation work, the applicant shall abide by the following. 1, all limits of clearing and any individual trees to be preserved within the clearing areas must be marked with snow fencing or orange mesh construction fencing. Said fencing shall be located no closer to the area to be preserved than the drip line of said tree. This area to be preserved shall be as indicated in the tree preservation and land clearing plan prepared by Michael James Hillebrand, licensed land surveyor, and dated May 17th, 2022. 2, upon completion of the installation of fencing as required above, the applicant shall provide written notice to the Department of Environment and Waterways requesting inspection of the limits of clearing as marked in the field by the cited fencing. 3, the applicant shall not commence construction activities, including land clearing or other site preparation work, until the marked limits of clearing are approved in writing by the Environmental Protection Director. And 4, the snow fencing or orange mesh construction fencing used to delineate the limits of clearing shall be maintained in place by the applicant until completion of all land clearing and grading activities at the subject parcel. And there's actually one more. Prior to the start of any tree clearing for the subdivision, any pine trees planned to be preserved must be reevaluated for disease infestation. If previously healthy trees planned to remain have become infested, the Department of Environment and Waterways must be contacted to perform an inspection. The Department of Environment and Waterways may then authorize the removal of additional infected pine trees. Second, resolved that the chairman of the planning board is hereby authorized to sign the final plat, thereby approving said plat after the town board has accepted a performance bond of satisfactory form and amount. Third, resolved that conditional final approval of said final plat shall expire 180 days after the date of this resolution, and within 62 days after the chairman of the planning board signs the final maps of this plat, unless said plat shall have been duly filed or recorded by the applicant in the office of the Suffolk County Clerk. And the last resolution, whereas the town departments of engineering, traffic safety, highway, and planning have prepared a performance bond estimate to cover the cost of all required public improvements. Now therefore be it first resolved that the chairman of the planning board is authorized to sign the performance bond estimate for number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, in the amount of $807,331.50, and establish an inspection fee of $64,587 and a cash deposit of $9,000. Therefore, the amount of the performance bond to be posted with the town shall be $798,331.50.
Thank you, Matt.
You want to repeat all that, Matt?
Mr. Tramarko.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarko. I represent the applicant. We've submitted the affidavit of posting to Mr. Colato. We ask the planning board to adopt the recommendations of the planning department. And I'd like to say this was a long and hard trek, and were it not for the planning department working with us to come up with what we think was the best solution, and a very pretty subdivision with the 3 cul-de-sacs the way it's been designed. And were it not for the planning department and their input, we might still be talking about it instead of here at the final resolution by the board. So thank you.
Okay, the affidavit is good?
Affidavits are good.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this matter? Okay, in the matter of final layout, number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, I move that we close the hearing.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The hearing is closed. In the matter of number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, I move that we adopt the secret negative declaration as recommended by the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted. In the matter of final plat variance, number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, I move that we approve the variances as listed in the table of modifications in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted. In the matter of subdivision final approval, number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted. And in the matter of number 1170, map of Coffee Estates, I move that we approve the performance bond estimate as recommended by the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? The motion is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is a recommendation to the Board of Zoning Appeals for the subdivision number 1191 Owl Hill Estates and Preserve in Fort Salonga. This matter involves a second request from the Board of Zoning Appeals, the BZA, to the Planning Board to review and issue a recommendation regarding variances pending before the BZA for case number 18429. Within the above referenced subdivision, the variance request does not change. However, the applicant requested the BZA reopen the hearing due to changes in the layout of the subdivision. The change in layout was requested by the town in order to minimize impacts to the historic resources on the property. Before the BZA can decide, they must ask the Planning Board for a second recommendation. The Planning Board held a hearing on February 17th, 2021, in order to provide a recommendation to the BZA based on the first layout of the subdivision. The Planning Board recommended conditional approval. Attached is the Planning Department's memorandum dated January 22nd, 2021, and the adopted resolution. The BZA held a hearing on the second request on October 11th, 2022. The applicant requests the following variance from the BZA: permit environmentally sensitive land to be altered, slopes in excess of 15%. The following noteworthy changes have been made to the layout of the subdivision. 1, the entire driveway for the historic dwelling on Lot 16 has been preserved. Preserving the entire driveway has minimized impacts to the historic resources on the site. This resulted in a change in the layout of the subdivision. 2, a 50-foot wide conservation easement has been placed along the north property line of the subdivision. This will provide a buffer for residents to the north and preserve additional environmentally sensitive land. 3, the change in layout has decreased the average lot area of lots 1 through 15, 17, and 18 from 28,711 square feet to 27,023 square feet. That's 0.65 acres and 0.62 acres respectively. 4, the change in layout has increased the lot area of lot 16 from 215,225 square feet to 248,598 square feet. That's 4.95 acres and 5.7 acres respectively. 5, the change in layout has decreased conservation area 2 from 35,569 square feet to 33,382 square feet. That's 0.81 acres and 0.76 acres respectively. And 6, the change in layout has increased the stormwater recharge basin from 82,846 square feet to 84,526 square feet. That's 1.9 acres and 1.94 acres, respectively. Article 16, Section 2776 of Town Law authorizes the BZA to grant area variances within a subdivision, but requires the BZA request a written recommendation from the Planning Board concerning the proposed variances. Town law does not describe the criteria that the Planning Board is supposed to use in developing a recommendation to the BZA. However, it seems likely that the recommendation should be based around the Planning Board's core mission regarding subdivision approval. That centers on the adequacy of access and infrastructure and to evaluate whether the subject property can be used safely for the building purposes without danger to health or peril from fire, flood, drainage, or other menace to neighboring properties or the public health, safety, and welfare. This recommendation does not examine the requested variances with respect to the 5 area variance criteria described in Section 267B of Town Law, as the BZA is tasked with evaluating the requested variance with respect to those criteria. The Planning Department has reviewed the variance request with respect to the change in layout and offers the following comments. 1, the first Planning Board recommendation to the BZA conditioned the applicant cluster the subdivision. The revised layout has remained a clustered subdivision. 2, the first Planning Board recommendation to the BZA conditioned the applicant provide a 50-foot wide buffer along the north property line in order to preserve additional ESL and provide a buffer to adjacent residents. The revised layout has provided a 50-foot conservation easement. 3, the minor shift in cul-de-sac design and location appears to provide adequate access, drainage, and infrastructure to the proposed homes. 4, as mentioned above, the average lot area of the revised layout, excluding lot 16, is 27,023 square feet. This is a decrease of 1,688 square feet from the first layout. However, it provides additional preservation of the historic dwellings resources. The Planning Department supports further preservation of the historic dwellings resources. 5, the minor decrease in conservation area 2 can be offset by the increase in lot area of lot 16 by 0.75 acres. Lot 16 will not be further subdivided, and majority of the 5.7 acres will be preserved. The Planning Department offers the following resolution for the Board's consideration. Whereas the Planning Board has considered the request from the Board of Zoning Appeals for a recommendation regarding variances associated with the subdivision number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve, now therefore be it first resolved that the Planning Board hereby recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the variances associated with the subdivision number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve, subject to the following conditions. 1, drainage alternatives to the recharge basin should be considered in order to preserve additional steep slopes and trees. 2, the total number of dwellings inclusive of workforce housing shall not exceed 18. 3, this recommendation pertains solely to the variance request before the Board of Zoning Appeals and not to the proposed lot layout, extent of regrading, building location, public improvements, or other aspects of subdivision design within the purview of the Planning Board. And 4, nothing contained herein shall be construed or deemed as implicitly or explicitly approving or endorsing on the merits any subsequent request for approval of any subdivision for this property, whether or not the request arises out of any variance granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals for said property.
Thank you, Mr. Colato. Mr. Tramarko?
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. My name is Vincent Tramarko. I represent the applicant. We ask the board to accept the recommendation of the planning department to the planning board to recommend the resolution as read by Mr. Collado to the Board of Zoning Appeals. Thank you.
And we do have the affidavit of posting.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to be heard on this matter? Can you please come up? Up to the mic and give your name and address for the record, please. And you can adjust that mic to make it
tall enough.
comfortable.
Hi, my name is John Rigrod.
Just pull that down just a little bit, sir.
This better?
There you go.
All right, 28 Sunken Meadow Road. Thank you. I just had a couple of questions, and I know when I first heard about this, it was back in that February. We came in by Zoom, I think, at that time. And there were some conversations. I missed the last meeting, and I don't have an axe to grind here. I'm just somewhat curious about one or two things, even if I didn't live on the road. The biggest question, it was maybe an oddball question that came up to me, is I understand preserving the house and the property and all that, and all the other things that have to happen perhaps to make that happen. My curiosity was, if, God forbid, that house were to burn down or disappear in some fashion, what happens to that whole chunk of land? Can somebody then come in and say, I own X number of acres, my house burned down, I want to subdivide this? Now, all of a sudden, the whole concept of preservation, in my head, would disappear. Then you'd just have more houses, and quite frankly, they'd be squinched in with the theory that you were creating a benefit by preserving this one estate. And I tried to learn about that, and I didn't seem to be able to learn from anybody. Is there a way to get an answer to that, or a point of view?
That's a good question.
Yeah, so there'd be conditions on the oversized part. So if the house did burn down, they could, apply for a permit for another house, but there would be conditions that that lot cannot be further subdivided, because they would be basically increasing the yield from what's permitted. So it is oversized, but there would be conditions and most likely covenants filed on it to
Well, that's what I'm
prohibit
saying.
that.
A covenant I could understand,
Yeah.
but if somebody just came in and said, gee, I have a hardship now, and in order to build my new house, I don't have insurance, and I'd like to lop off another 10 acres and put another 5 houses in, you're saying that you think you might be able to build in some...
They could apply for a permit to rebuild the house. They could have one house on that
No,
lot.
I'm saying, but if
Right.
that house is gone, would it be in stone in a sense that they could not...
If there
for
are
wha-
covenants filed on it, yes.
Well, who would do that? Is that the town's...
It would be it would be a condition of approval, and then the applicant would have to file the covenants on the property.
All right, my thought is if that could be thought about, that to me would be beneficial to all parties,
Right.
that at least it would be there. The second thing is, and I know I'm very late in the game here, I didn't understand the reason for granting so many houses in that situation. The point, I guess, being is if I had a perfectly wonderful piece of property and I wanted to get a few more houses out of it, and I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you this land for a ball field or whatever the town would benefit by, and you said, okay, now we can make the plot a little smaller or whatever we have to do to make this all work, everybody wins. My thought is that if you have a piece of property that you can only build so many houses on because it has so many steep slopes and ponds and whatever would interfere with that, besides preserving that house and that concept, I'm not understanding if the town is getting anything out of this in a sense, because my opinion would be, I think I asked on the Zoom call, how many houses could be built right now if they were to keep that one house, and I think it was like 3. And now we're talking like 17. And I would understand that if we could build a school there or do whatever you would want to do. But to me, if you never heard of this and someone just said, I want to build some houses, okay, you can build 3 and thank you very much. So I'm not appreciating such a large amount of benefit, and I'm not complaining about it, I'm just not understanding what's the trade-off. Usually when you get a variance, I understand you're too close to the line, something is close enough or reasonable. I just don't understand the concept here. I'm not complaining about it as much as what was the reason for giving so many? Was it in order to protect that house from being bulldozed? Can they bulldoze it if they weren't to get this benefit? So I don't know if that's been explained, but I haven't been able to learn about it.
So, yeah, that's why they're applying to the BZA to get the variances. One of the main issues with this property, I don't know if it's the best word to use, but a lot of the steep slopes are along Sunken Meadow Road. So in order to access the flatter portions of the property, they would have to disturb those slopes. So it's not like the whole property is steep. There are flat portions of the property. I mean, it's 27 acres. There are flat portions of the property. So in order to access those areas, you'd have to build a road. But in order to build that road, you'd be disturbing the steep slopes. So that's why they said the yield from an as of right is 2. It's because there's a lot of steep slopes on the border of their property, so you wouldn't be able to access the center of it without disturbing.
Well, I understand it, but let's say I owned a piece of property, and every inch of it was a steep slope. I guess I couldn't build on that property unless you gave me permission to
Right.
bulldoze a slope or do something. What I'm saying is there's such a large amount of housing going in there, when in theory, you just wouldn't be able to do it. So what I'm saying is, so many houses, we're not getting, in a sense, a park, and it just seems to me, it violates the concept of Fort Salonga. And I'm not picky if someone has a close situation. I just don't understand so many houses, no particular benefit to the neighborhood, to the town itself. To me, all right, help the guy get some houses in there, but this seems so dramatic to me, and again, I'm from the outside on this, as to why so many houses with so little benefit, other than I can understand the builder. I don't blame the builder. I don't blame anybody for trying to do best for his business. And I'm not against building. I don't understand the ratio, the concept, because if you didn't give it to him, he'd only be able to build 2, 3 houses, and that would be and go home. So this is such a dramatic giveaway benefit, whatever, that I'm not arguing against it because I don't know the reasons that you're granting it. But it seems to me...
No one granted it
Well,
yet, so
no,
that's
but,
why.
the concept of granting it. To me, it's
Right.
it's excessive, not in a, I'm not a tree hugger that you can't do that. It just seems so dramatically off base to the benefit. And I would present that to the board only because if you're really trying to preserve that, and you get all those houses and the traffic and everything else, it does sort of violate it. I understand they should build on it. I understand maybe he should have more than not. That's up to all of you. But it just seems so mammoth compared to, I don't see a benefit to me as a citizen, even if I didn't live on Sunken Meadow Road. So that's pretty much the point of view. And I guess going along with that is, could they tear this house down if they wanted to, or is there some reason they cannot?
The historic house?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can't tear it down. I mean, it could burn, like you said, or
Yeah.
something like that, but no, they can't tear it
But
down.
I'm saying, if they wanted to build now,
They
so,
wouldn't be able to do that.
so what I'm saying, except nature, God's will or whatever, I just don't understand the concept as dramatic. 3, 4 houses, whatever, so many without any trade-off. That's the part that I'm challenging you to think about.
Thank you. Thank you for
Okay.
your comments.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Anybody else? Okay. Again, state your name and address for the record, and spell your last name for the stenographer, please.
Carl Jacob, with a K, last name Jacob.
You can raise that mic, sir. Thank you.
61 Sunken Meadow Road. I was at last week's meeting, and I just want to add to the fact that it was mentioned that there were no environmentally, what the term was, sensitive areas in that area. Everyone along Sunken Meadow Road and along Hastings are up on hills, and it leads, everybody's rainwater leads down to the pond that's at the end of Sunken Meadow and 25A, which is looks like a tidal basin for the river that comes to the other side. To say that's not environmentally sensitive, I would have to disagree with that. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. Robert Bartels, B-A-R-T-E-L-S, 55 Hastings Drive. I would agree. I think this is environmentally challenging. It will get impact. I'm not sure why so many houses, as the first speaker had said, in this community, in this area, the homes are on much larger sites. Don't have these small, smaller sections. So I don't understand that. But that being set aside, my main question is, I heard the term used, the steep slopes. So are we going to be flattening out any of those slopes that are in there, that are in that section? Or is what's going to be built basically going to be on pretty flat ground as it is? Because there are some major slopes in there.
Yeah, they would be, I wouldn't say they're flattening it, they're regrading it. Certain portions of where the house would be built would have to be flattened. There are requirements in the code for where houses are put, and, they got to be regraded for drainage purposes, but I don't know if I'd use the word flattening. They're more like altering or regrading them.
Right, but that kind of goes to the point of the drainage with the rainwater and coming down. So if everything is kind of coming down the hills and then you're building up certain areas.
Right. If you see the map, there's a recharge basin, or a sump, as some people call it,
Right.
that would capture all the water at the bottom of the road and then direct it towards there. So it wouldn't be going towards Sunken Meadow Road, or it should not be going. It should be designed in a way that it captures all of it and directs it to the sump.
Okay, thank you.
That's one of the main things about subdivisions, is making sure the drainage is done correctly.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions from the board on this matter? Yes, sir.
Only that gentleman brought up that. I've lived there many, many, many years, and in heavy rains, not only does water come down, but sand and dirt and gravel also. It comes all the way up from that stop sign where he is, down, all the way down Sunken Meadow Road, makes the turn towards 25A. I'm sure you are familiar with the site at this point. Overflows the sewers and goes into the pond at the way bottom. It's a heavy volume of water, especially in one of these terrible storms. The theory of having all these houses with asphalt, no matter how you do a sump, I would think even the driveway alone might act as a funnel, because that's exactly what happens. Sunken Meadow Road literally floods for quite a distance before it makes a turn and naturally follows the property until it gets into where it shouldn't go, into that wetland, because the sewers can't hold it. I can't imagine, no matter how you would build a sump, unless you literally put a drain in each, maybe you should, in each home's driveway, that it seems to me that the asphalt alone would guide that much water by that much surface area almost directly down, because I don't know how you would trap it from coming down the asphalt. I understand the sump concept for rainwater, basic water, but it's such a directive force. The amount of things, if leaf bags, all kinds of things flow down there like a little river, I can't imagine that wouldn't amplify that condition. So once again, if they do that, perhaps would be a better way. I don't know if you could drain each driveway, each house, but it seems to me some of this stuff might not be possible. Once again, I guess the more land you disturb, the more land you pave, the more land you put your house on, the more problem it would be for that water and the more buildup. But I don't know if you've ever seen footage of it. People bring pictures in, ask the highway department. There are times that it's not impassable, but it's pretty scary for, and all kinds of debris comes down. So once again, if you are working at this, the gentleman brought up a very good point. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, seeing none. In the matter of number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve, I move that we close the hearing.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? The hearing is closed. In the matter of Board of Zoning Appeals recommendation, number 1191, map of Owl Hill Estates and Preserve, I move that we adopt the resolution as read in accordance with the recommendation of the Planning Department.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? The motion is adopted. Have a good evening. Okay, and moving on, I move that we adopt the minutes of the September 7th and September 28th, 2022 meetings of the Planning Board.
I second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. The motion is adopted. And now I move to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
All those in favor? Aye. The meeting is adjourned.